Boy, transmitters just keep getting smaller and smaller. Welcome back to the Scale Builders Guild. Thanks again for watching. Today we're taking a first look and a review of the Spektrum DX5 Rugged. This is a new 5-channel radio brought to you by the people at Spektrum. The idea behind this radio is to conquer the elements and to build a radio specific to the RC crawling and scaled truck community. Thanks to Spektrum for sending me the DX5 Rugged. I'm looking forward to getting into it. If you're familiar at all with the DX5C, then you will notice a lot of the same feature set on the DX5 Rugged. There are some things on the Rugged that set it apart from the DX5C, but I do invite you to go back and watch my review and first look of the DX5C, as there are a lot of similar features in the software, and that's definitely worth taking a look at. First and foremost, Spektrum has advertised and promoted this radio as being weatherproof or weather or water resistant, and the idea here is that you can take this radio out and not worry so much about either getting it muddy, having it drop into the water, having it fall on the rocks. They've built this thing with the idea of it being rugged, hence the name, the DX5 Rugged. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, let's go over some of the features of this radio. The DX5 Rugged is a very handsome radio. It feels very good in the hand. They've gone over and revised the rubberized grip that is in your palm. It sits in there quite nicely. It is fairly weighty. It's got a bit of weight to it, but I don't mind it. It feels quite balanced, which I do like. There's good action on both the throttle and the steering. While we're at it, we should mention right away that there is this thumbstick included here, so you can do one-handed driving. This is a major plus for me. I do a lot of my own filming. Well, I do all my filming by myself, and this is going to make it significantly easier to drive my trucks around and film at the same time. Usually I've got this camera on a gimbal and I'm driving, and with the older Spektrum 5C, that was a lot harder to do. As you can see, I had to really get my thumb going, and that was pretty painful. So not the best scenario for one-handed driving. This one is definitely better. So much easier to do. I'm really looking forward to getting that out and using it in this regard. You'll also notice that there's a lot of rubberized components built into the Rugged, and this is, obviously to make it a lot more robust. I've used my old transmitters before to kind of prop me up in case I was going to fall. So it's nice to know that I can kind of bash this one around a little bit on stuff and not really wreck any of that plastic. So that's a nice feature, absolutely. You'll also notice there's this extension pole here, and this, it doesn't really get promoted very much, but what you can do here is, if you are an enterprising individual and you've got a 3D printer at home, you can print any number of accessories that could clamp onto this post. So theoretically, you could attach a GoPro or a timer, or maybe even make an iPhone mount. There's all number of things you could do. And I'm definitely going to exploit that. I think that's a pretty cool feature. There's also a number of lanyard connectors, so if you're a lanyard guy and you like to have your radio hang around your neck, check it out, I'm the coolest guy in the whole world! Yeah! I mean, I guess this is good. Whoa, I'm never gonna drop it. It's not really my thing, but I guess I see the value in this. Yeah. Alright. It does have this nice door on the back that you can store stuff in on the trail, like maybe a few tools here and there. Oh, you can put a T-wrench in there, that's what that's for, and then you can also maybe hide a couple of other little tiny things in there, maybe like a little bag of screws or whatnot, just in case you need some stuff on the trail. It's a good place to stick some junk. One other positive note, the contrast on the screen is infinitely better than it was on the DX5C. I always found that I was kind of squinting or having a hard time seeing what was on the display on the old DX5C. The DX5 Rugged has improved that contrast level, and it looks fantastic. It would be nice if they added a backlight to it. Most scaled trail truck guys I know always do a night run, and it would be great to be able to see what was going on that display in the darkness of night.
Uncool. Uncool, Dwight.
I don't know about you, but I'm very nerdy about settings, and I like to see feedback on what's going on with my RCs. So telemetry, provided you have the right receivers, allows you to see anything from temperature to RPMs. They all can be accessed through this transmitter, and that to me is a real bonus. There is also, and I've been kind of diving through the menu trying to find new things that differentiate the Rugged from other radios, and there is this thing called drive mode. For example, say you've got a competition style setup, or you want to have a setup for just driving on the trails, you can actually build those two modes into the drive mode. So you can have one that's got 100% drag brake, and then you've got another one that's got 50% drag brake, and you just flip the switch and off you go with either of those two systems. It's nice to be able to group a bunch of functions together and have them switch between each other with just the flip of a switch. Very cool. Ultimately, one of the biggest changes between this and the DX5C is the control mechanism for going through the menus. On the old DX5C, it was a scroll wheel and actual clicking buttons. On the DX5 Rugged, they've gone to a touch-sensitive system. And this was obviously to keep water and grime and mud and dirt out of those buttons so it can be water resistant or weatherproof. It does take a bit of getting used to, and at first I was a bit like, this isn't really what I'm used to, and it's especially not if you already use a touchscreen phone. It's going to be a bit of a learning curve to get used to the sensitivity. You can adjust the sensitivity up. There's 5 different levels of sensitivity on how quickly it scrolls or how quickly it responds to your touch. But it does take some getting used to. I don't think overall it's a big issue, and if it means that this is waterproof or water resistant or weatherproof, I will definitely make that compromise and get used to the touch sensitive controls. A few people on Instagram asked if this still included mixing, and yes, it does. Mixing is available for 4-wheel steering, or you can even have a programmable mix, so you can have a master-slave situation, much like I showed off in the DX5C. With one of the other videos I did, you can have, say, a winch tied to throttle, so as you throttle up, the winch pulls in. It's actually kind of nice, and it makes winching and some of those other features a lot easier to use. The limits to programmable mixing really are endless, and there are all kinds of different things you can do. So it's nice that they still include mixing in this radio. The SR515 receiver that is included with this radio is 5 channels. You'll notice there is no bind port anymore because it's now a button, which is really nice. Ultimately, I think it's a pretty decent radio. I think for the dollar value, you're actually getting a lot of radio, and the addition of the thumb wheel for one-handed driving, the touch-sensitive controls, the storage port on the back, and all of the ruggedized rubber does make this an excellent radio. So there you have it. That's a quick look at the DX5 Rugged from Spektrum. I look forward to using this radio a lot more often, and I hope that you found this informative. If you did, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you always get updates on new videos. Thanks so much for watching. See you again soon.